So judging by the title, you can probably already guess what this video is about. And yeah, it's true. I like Resident Evil 6. In fact, I really like Resident Evil 6. It's one of my favorite third-person shooters ever made. The combat is extremely satisfying and has a mechanical depth that you can't really find anywhere else outside of games like Vanquish. And it's not just the gameplay. The story is well written too, with loving tributes to the games of old, and it has emotionally impactful scenes, all accompanied by beautifully directed cutscenes that even look better than some high-budget movies. For all the praise that I've given to this game, it doesn't change the fact that it's widely regarded as one of the worst Resident Evil games and one of the worst games ever. So saying that I heavily disagree with that notion, I think it's about time that I start getting in depth with why I like this game so much. So, without wasting any more time, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I love Resident Evil 6.
Resident Evil 6.
Resident Evil 6 is by far one of the most satisfying third-person shooters I've ever played. All the mechanics blend together to create an intense and satisfying gameplay experience that rewards skill to play. The basic movement mechanics are buttery smooth with the ability to dash, dodge, and slide all around the place. And, for a series first, you can actually move while shooting. The unrestricted movement mechanics are just so fun to mess around with, especially given with how open some of these areas are, and the ability to dodge really helps emphasize the heart-pumping action this game is going for, as well as giving the player the ability to dodge attacks that maybe they didn't see coming at first. But honestly, it just looks really stylish. The melee system that has become synonymous with Resident Evil ever since Resident Evil 4 has been upgraded in this game, and it's damn near perfection. Not only has the sheer amount of melee moves been increased tenfold, but the animations are top notch. I never knew how much I wanted to do wrestling moves on zombies until I played this game. Melee isn't only there for spectacle though, it's a fully fleshed out system that is an integral part of the combat. Smart use of your melee attacks not only can help you conserve ammo and do massive damage to your enemies, but depending on what character you're playing as, moves can stun or knock down enemies, opening up for additional attacks. If there is one thing I absolutely love about this game's combat, is that it actually has depth, and you can actually get better and better at the more you play. Before we move on, I want to highlight just how satisfying the headshot sound is as well as the parrying sound are. Whoever did the sound design needs a raise. Take a listen. Something every good action game needs are crazy set pieces, and Resident Evil 6 not only has a lot of them, but some damn good ones at that, such as a minecart boss fight, driving a motorcycle over rooftops while you're getting chased by a helicopter, fighting a zombie shark, you name it. This game is extremely creative with its set pieces, and I love it. The pure insanity that is in this game, something that I feel not many other games can replicate or have even attempted at, which in turn give Resident Evil 6 a unique charm to it. And to keep in line with the topic of set pieces and overall insanity, I believe Resident Evil 6 has the best chunk of bosses in the entire series. They are varied, unique in design, and all around fun to fight, with my favorite bosses being Leon's final boss, which is just absolute insanity. It takes the trope of Resident Evil bosses transforming to the absolute extreme. The Invisible Snake in Chris's campaign, it's a very nice fight and a nice little callback to Yon from Resident Evil 1. In fact, this game has a lot of callbacks and cool references to the previous titles. Leon's entire campaign is like a tribute to the previous Resident Evil installments, and Jake's campaign is sort of like a retelling of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, with the Ostenok being a stand-in for Nemesis. I really love the callbacks and references found all throughout this game, because unlike a certain other franchise I know, this game does it in a tasteful and respectful manner. It genuinely feels like the developers highly respect the games that started this franchise. The story of Resident Evil 6 is broken up into 3 main campaigns and a 4th extra campaign. Along with each of these campaigns having their own story, they also have different takes on the gameplay, as well as often intersecting with each other, sharing cutscenes and even whole gameplay sections. Funnily enough, the way this game handles it is very similar to Sonic Adventure 1 of all games, and the Capcom has even revisited intersecting stories with games like Devil May Cry 5. So let's quickly talk about these campaigns, starting with Leon's. Leon's campaign, as said before, feels like a tribute to the Resident Evil games of old. Not only does he primarily fight zombies, which the other campaigns do not, but he also visits areas that are strikingly similar to iconic areas we've seen in this franchise before. For example, a city during the midst of a zombie outbreak, a gun shop, cathedrals and minecarts, and an abandoned lab right underneath the city. That's not to say that this entire campaign is a retread. No, halfway through the campaign he goes to China, which is a location completely unique to Resident Evil 6. Also, Leon's campaign has the best depiction of Leon and Ada's relationship since the original Resident Evil 2. And speaking of Resident Evil 2, in the last cutscene with Ada, you can just faintly hear her original Resident Evil 2 theme. And I gotta say, as a longtime fan, this cutscene gave me goosebumps.
What are you? Why are you helping us?
We're wish I could stay longer, but I've got to run. I've left you a little parting gift on the roof. See you down the road, Leon.
This campaign plays like a more traditional third-person shooter with a Resident Evil spin on it. The story of Chris as he goes on a dark path of losing his entire team is a compelling one, especially since Chris is one of my favorite Resident Evil protagonists, and he's always been determined, driven, and laser-focused on getting the job done, so seeing his whole demeanor change was interesting. His bromance with Pierce Nivens is a joy to see, as you can tell these guys are brothers in arms, which makes Pierce's death at the end of the campaign that much more tragic and sad, especially given that at the beginning of Chapter 4, Chris admits that he wants Pierce to take his place when he retires. Overall, Chris's campaign is fun and has an amazing story that respects the character of Chris Redfield.
Hey, Pierce. What you said about me hiding from my past. You were right.
Captain,
Catch up to her?
won't stop until I do.
Jake's campaign is, I would say, the weakest in terms of gameplay, with some very frustrating moments. But to be fair, it does have a few moments of greatness. Jake and Sherry's relationship is the highlight of this campaign, however, especially putting into consideration that they are both the children of two of the series' most recognizable antagonists. Jake being the son of Albert Wesker, and Sherry, the daughter of William Birkin. This campaign also pays tribute to Resident Evil 3, with the Ostenlag being the stand-in for Nemesis as he chases our characters throughout the entire game. And the fact that they defeat him with the power of love is corny as it is endearing.
Thank you.
Overall, I say that Resident Evil 6 is one of the best stories in the franchise. It's well written, fully realized, and the characters are all entertaining and compelling. My only real issue with the story is that one of the major twists is that there are two Adas running around. The real Ada and Carla, who is a clone of her. The problem is, though, that throughout the game, Ada is blamed for the horrible atrocities that Carla has committed, for example, killing all of Chris's men in Chapter 2. The problem is that in order for this whole thing to happen, the characters have to be completely oblivious and not notice that they have two separate outfits. This is most egregious with Chris's campaign, because first he sees the real Ada, and then right after he sees Carla, and does not question at all how she changed outfits so quickly. It's not that big of a deal, but it's just something I noticed after playing through the game a few times. Alright, we are near the end of this video, so let's quickly go through a few of my last points. Hot damn, is this game beautiful. Resident Evil 6 is a very strong art direction. It feels gritty and realistic, yet it also has that classic over-the-top Resi aesthetic that we all know and love. This is very clearly seen with the enemy and boss designs. I've mentioned that you fight a literal dinosaur in Leon's campaign, but what I failed to mention was that this boss is literally an organic, fleshy transformer. It's quite unique and I've never seen anything like it. Chris final boss looks ghoulish and the Deborah fight has me feeling that type of way. In terms of environments, I love the Chinese areas. They feel so densely detailed. The underwater base looks cool and very sci-fi, and I absolutely love the Mirror's Edge looking holding facility that Jake and Sherry were in. Let's see, what else is there? Oh yes, this game has the definitive version of Mercenaries modes. It has the most maps, most characters, and this game's combat is just that addicting. I put so many hours into this game mode over the years. Here's hoping Resident Evil Village's Mercenaries is just as good as this one. I like how in Leon Chapter 2 you can hear this old guy talking about his son Marco being the BSAA, and what do you know, in Chris's campaign in Chapter 3, you have Marco on your team. But of course, in Resident Evil fashion, he doesn't last long. And honestly, that's about it when it comes to Resident Evil 6, and what I like about it. Of course, I could have gone into further detail, but I think I did a decent job at least of giving a general idea about why I like this game so much. Resident Evil 6 is a game that I feel is overhated. Sure, it's a far cry from the survival horror classics that birthed this franchise, but as a game on its own, it does a good job at doing what it set out to do, and that is be an over-the-top action game. And call me crazy, but when I play Resident Evil 6, I still feel like I'm playing a Resident Evil game. It still has that tone, that charisma, and the soul that Resident Evil has since the beginning. It's a hard thing to describe, you just have to feel it. But that's all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching, and take care.
Save me, also